Hello, Soul Diggers. Welcome to another juicy episode. I am joined by the one and only Aimee Batuski. Oh my goodness.
So fun to do this together.
So fun to do it. And in Bali as well.
Yes.
So me and Aimee live together. We've lived together for the past few months and it's been so expansive for me. So I'm just going to introduce you as I know you, and
Great.
then you can give a formal introduction. So Aimee to me is completely unapologetic. She is a badass businesswoman who is just so turned on by helping women own their desires, follow their turn on in life. And you have really transformed my life since I've met you a couple of months ago. And I can't even cope with what's going to happen the rest of this year. And you also become a dear friend. And I just want to say thank you for your friendship and your leadership and for seeing something within me that I was so stubborn to not let out for 36 years of my life. So that was my introduction for you.
Thank you.
What would your introduction be for yourself,
Oh my
dear?
gosh. Well, thank you for that. Thank you. And you're welcome. And it's such a pleasure. Well, hello, everyone. My name's Aimee Batuski, and how do I introduce myself? I actually was just interviewed for a different podcast earlier today, and I was like, how do I introduce myself? Every time it's different because I do so much, and I'm like, how can I encapsulate into one thing? But I call myself an intimacy coach. And the reason that I call myself an intimacy coach versus a pleasure coach or a relationship coach is because intimacy is necessary in every area of our lives, right? We're intimate with ourselves, with our partners, with our family, with our work, with our purpose, right? There's an intimacy, a connectedness in every area of life. And so I really work with people on all areas of life, as you know, and infusing life with more turn on and pleasure and permission and truth, and then getting all the shit out of the way that's in the way from having that pleasurable, desire-filled life.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And yeah, I joined your course a couple of months ago. So Aimee has a course called the Pleasure Mastery course. And I was too busy to do it.
Right.
I'm so busy. I got so much, could you tell everyone my resistance and how you saw through that?
Yeah, this is really fun to tell. I'm going to speak to everyone like they're sitting in front of us, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. This is how Kim was. So yeah, your resistance was really normal. I mean, this is the thing, I played with it so much because I'm so used to it. This is how people are when it comes to this kind of work. And I've had so much resistance and my own hesitations around, especially doing work in sex and intimacy and pleasure, because it is so confronting. So, okay, this is how it looked. I kept feeling an intuitive feeling that you should be in this program because of what you're up to. You're really successful, you have this amazing life, you're really into transformation, and you're really wanting to call in your partner, right? Your partner for life. And you're not just wanting to call in a great partner, but a really fulfilling, pleasurable, connected, spiritual relationship, right? And so you kept sharing about that, and every time I'd have this intuitive feeling you should be in this program. This is what I teach. But I would share with you, which I think is part of what has me be a successful coach, because I acknowledge it when I feel it. And a lot of people in any kind of business are they hear the opportunity and then they're like, oh, I don't want to say it because what if they think I'm selling to them? Or what if they think I'm, pressuring them? Or what if they think they think they need fixing? But I didn't feel that. I was just this is aligned. I'm going to keep sharing it with you, and you can say yes or no. I really allow people to be adults and have their yes or their no, and that's it. So I shared with you, and every time it was just oh, I'm busy, work. I have a big goal in my business right now. I don't have time for this, and I'm doing it in other ways, and I'm working on it myself. Right. Those are kind of the conversations, which are really common. I deal with this, and I hear this from women all the time. Is fill in the blank. It's oh, I will when when my kids are grown, or once I've reached this milestone in my business, or I'm making a certain amount of money, and then I'll invest in myself and my healing and my pleasure. Or I'll just get there without any help. That's kind of some of the things that I hear. It's really common. But it doesn't usually go that way. We usually need some support, some outside perspective to see our blind spots in order to heal.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me particularly, I've always been in this hustle, grind, work. And I just didn't think I needed it. I thought, I'm good, I can do it on my own. And I also recognize from my perspective, being within Arbonne, is that I get all of that, and I can feel the resistance from people when they want to join, and I can see the potential within them.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, I'm not letting Aimee guide me towards what she knows is best for me.
Right.
And so from me saying yes to the program, it's lifted every lid off of my business as well. I don't feel like I have any blockages or anything stopping me from that. So it just has a knock-on effect on the whole of your life.
Yeah, everywhere. Yeah. And I love hearing that from you. You've shared with me about how it's impacted things, because I call it going through a portal, right? And so once you go through that portal where you were like, okay, I'm actually going to open to receive Aimee's guidance. I'm going to open to receive her expertise here. I'm going to allow for the support. I'm going to open to invest in myself in this new way. You went through it, and then it just starts opening everywhere. Oh, I can all of a sudden guide other people with comfort through this sort of portal. Oh, all of a sudden I'm comfortable pointing out where I see possibility for them, where before I was like, I don't know, I don't want to ruffle feathers or make them uncomfortable. So once you went through that portal and you expanded what you could receive and how much you would invest in yourself and how much pleasure you'd let yourself have, it becomes easier everywhere and in helping others.
Yeah. And this has been transformational for me, stepping into my feminine energy. And for anyone who's been following me for a while, you know that I'm really passionate now about ease, grace, fun. How easy can it be? Like, I think feminine leadership is definitely more needed in this world.
Yeah.
And I think transitioning from that masculine hustle has been something I didn't quite know how to do. So when I saw your course, I was like, oh my God, I can't afford that.
Right.
Even though I had the money.
Right.
Oh, I can't possibly do that.
Right.
But I could.
Yeah. It's knee jerk though, right? It's
Yeah.
knee jerk. It's like the protecting yourself, protecting your money, protecting your assets, like not knowing it's a risk. It's like, what is this? And especially with the feminine work. And I mean, this is the case for you too. It's like when you're making an investment in anything that's for your growth, like you don't know for sure what the return's going to be, right? I mean, with any sort of investment, it is a risk, like investment in the stock market, investment in starting a business, investing in personal development. It's like you have to trust something that's deeper. And especially with this kind of feminine work, I'm like, yeah, you're going to come into this 6-month container with me for coaching. And we're going to talk about all this, pleasure, sex, orgasm, family, relationships, business, money. And you're going to come out a different person. It's like, will I don't know.
Can I have that?
Are you sure?
Wow.
Do I deserve that? Can I give that to myself? Right? So there's a lot that you have to move through. And fortunately, you've done so much personal development work through Arbonne and through the industry that you're in that it was easier than it is for some, but you still had to work through your own like human mechanisms of protection. And it's normal to have fear or concern or consideration when you're taking on a whole new journey in life.
Yeah, it was so good for me to actually feel in the other position of feeling the fear of investing, and I was like, oh my God, this is how other people must feel. I've not felt like this for a while.
Yeah.
So as soon as I paid the money, I instantly felt this like opening, this permission. Yeah. So can you share with everyone, like from your perspective, how have you seen me shift over the past couple of months, just so people can
oh my God,
see?
I'm like, how much can I tell?
Not every detail.
I know, I won't, but just your energy is completely different. You're way more like just trusting, like, yes, I can surrender here. I can trust it is coming. It's already on its way. And with dating, like you're way more willing to put yourself out there and connect with men and share and like reveal your heart and play with desire and communicate that even when it feels like edgy or scary. And that's what it's all about. I mean, this is what my work is about, as is learning to what I call get right with your desire. And then in getting right with your desire, following it will guide you to the right place. No, so even if you're like, oh, I have this desire for this man and he doesn't end up being the one, it's okay. It's not a deviation. It's perfect. You listen to that desire, you express it, then you learn something. Ooh, look at like a new level of confidence I got, or something I got to heal with that man. And then it brings you to the next place. So I feel a lot more like trust in your path and your process and your business and your growth by playing. It's like you're practicing and playing. I really feel you taking on the, this mindset that I have of life is practice, right? Like business is practice, relationships are practice, sex is practice for just our growth and healing and, for our connection to self. So I definitely feel the ease that comes with living, as I would call it, a practitioner's life, like living as someone who practices, and that it takes the goal out, it takes the pressure off, right? And so there's like a lightness to you that you're like, oh yeah, this is all practice. This is all play. This is all learning. It's all growing.
Yeah.
It's all fun. Even the highs and the lows and the successes and the failures, right? It's all for practice and learning.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really helped because I said, right, okay, I'm not going to focus on finding the one.
Right.
Because, you know, I teach all the time, if you focus on something so much, like you really want it and you're holding on so tight, it just doesn't come because it's just so resistant.
Yeah.
But there's another thing when you really, really, really want something, when you really want this partner, when you really want to fall in love, it's like, oh, how can I let it go?
Right. It's impossible. I want it so bad.
Yeah. So I said, right, 6 months, I'm going to have new experiences. I'm going to lean into sensation. And I have been pushing all the edges and I just feel so confident because I know I'm going to have my center, but I'm going to have the embodiment of lots of different experiences that I wouldn't have had before, which is amazing.
Yeah, and you're just getting so much more solid in who you are and what you want and what you don't want, right? By allowing yourself to explore and play and follow that sensation in your body, that turn on in your body. And so then you'll be way more aligned when you actually do call in your partner, when you're ready for that, rather than just like, oh, I want someone, he better be great, let's just call him in. It's more of like, for a lot of people, it's more of like a superficial level of like, oh, I know that the desire is like a man, so let's do it, versus like, whoa, what is it? What do I want my relationship to feel like in my body? How do I want to be met? How do I want to be seen? How do I want to see him? How do I want to honor him in this experience? How do I want our sex to feel? How do I want the juiciness of our vibration together to be? And so deeper in your relationship to yourself will just call in a completely different level of man when you're ready for that commitment.
Come to the wedding?
Yes. I want to officiate it. Invite whoever else wants to. No, I'll be front and center.
I love it. Yeah, and just to add to that, so like when I've been owning my desires in like in the dating and in the course that you're amazingly teaching, in my business it's showing up. I'm owning my desire in my business. I've paid thousands of dollars for this course, and I've chosen to invest in this part of me which has been so suppressed for so long. Yeah, especially being English, you know. Talking about passion and what turns you on and sexuality is like, oh, don't talk about that, dear.
Right.
So to invest money in bringing that up and making it more alive was it was so triggering for me.
Yeah.
And that's what I really wanted to speak about today is like the triggers. So many of my listeners have been saying, I want to do an episode on triggers. Like, what are triggers? Like, how can I help them?
Yeah.
So what is a trigger?
Yeah. So triggers are when you feel activation in your body in response to something else, right? So something's going on in your field and you're around you, often in relationships or in conversation, and it ignites something in you, often that we relate to as a negative reaction, right? Like there's like, it's often, if you bring it down to the level of sensation, it's like tension in your chest or, you know, trouble breathing or like tightness or something like that. And it's usually, well, it's always from something from the past. And so there's a different there's a spectrum of triggers. Like some are really like very intense triggers that could be from deeper trauma. And some are just kind of light reactions where you're like, oh, I'm noticing a little reaction there, right? So there can be a full range of what triggers can actually look like and sound like and be like in your life, but they always come from something old. It's always something old. And I love the saying, I don't know if you know this one, but anything that is hysterical is historical. So anything that you have a hysterical reaction to, it's anything that's like a really intense reaction, is from your upbringing or your conditioning or your childhood. It's some old wound being touched. Yeah.
So an example.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm like, easy. I'm triggered. Everyone's triggered all the time. And I talk to people about triggers all the time too. Okay. So, here's an example. Okay. So, I have a friend whose partner went to an event without her. And she noticed that she had stuff coming up of like, what's he doing there? And when's he going to text me? And is he with women there? And is he going to call me? And what, like, is he thinking about me? And is he going to cheat on me? Okay. So all of that is not actually in resonance with what's happening, right? It's I call it like a right-sized reaction. It's not really a right-sized reaction. So anytime you're like, oh my God, he must be cheating, he must be this, like, who are the women there? What's happening? Like, we all do that usually internal, and we look very calm, cool, and collected when it's happening, but we have something like that come up, right? And if it's anything like that doesn't really seem right-sized for the situation, it's a trigger. Right. So it's something old, like maybe this person has been betrayed them in the past, or has felt, less than, or has insecurity around her beauty or her worth, right? So those are all getting stirred up when her partner goes somewhere without her, right? Just as an example, or goes to an event where she knows there's going to be beautiful women. And so that's a trigger, right? And it doesn't actually, and he might not be doing anything remotely, right? But it's like that kind of trigger can come up, and I can go more into like what causes triggers inside of us, because I break it down so intensely in our course, which I won't teach the whole thing, but basically the way that I like to break it down is like, when you're activated by something, it is old, it's from something going on, but the places that are easy to look, or that I find helpful to look, are, is this something that you want that you don't think that you can have? Is it something that you want, or that you are, like a characteristic that you actually are, but you suppress about yourself? Or is it just something from old trauma? Like it's just stirring up something from the past. For example, sometimes people get triggered by other people's anger, right? So someone's getting angry. Say you're around me and you're getting so angry, and I'm getting reactive to it. I'm like, why is she getting angry? So an example could be that I am not right with the fact that I have anger. I don't let it out. So then I get triggered by you letting out your anger. Now, most people don't see it that way. They're just like, this woman's a bitch, right? We just judge. We judge, we condemn, we villainize people, instead of looking inward, which is so much of my work, as you know. It's like having you all look inward at like, what is this bringing up in me? Is she just really right with her anger? And that brings up the fact that that I'm not, right? So I hope people that are watching or listening are like, can follow this, but it's about looking inward at like, wow, what is this stirring up in me? What part of me wants this or suppresses this quality? Or what was the old experience that I had that is, that wounded me? This is touching.
Oh, this is so good, guys. If you are getting value from this, please screenshot, tag Aimee. We'll post the details in the show notes, because this needs to be heard by the whole world. Because me especially, I didn't understand what triggers were. So what I've realized was, if you don't like what you see, look in the mirror. Yeah. Because ultimately you can only see what is within you. So if you're seeing people being judgmental, it's because you're probably judging yourself, or you're judging other people. And just to use my trigger from a recent thing, was doing the amazing work in your course. I've realized that I'm a queen. Yes. But what I was doing is women that were being taken care of by the man, looked down on them. I thought, oh God, you're just so flaky and entitled, and the man's paying for everything, and you're just having kids at home, and you're lazy. And now I'm like, you go, girl. If that's what you want, and that allows you to be in your feminine beauty and power, like, go for it. But I wasn't letting myself have that. Right. So I was trying to be the masculine and the feminine dominant in my life, which has caused me to have burnout many, many times. Yeah. And now embracing this feminine energy, I understand that the feminine gifts are something that the men haven't got. And so being able to surrender and be feminine and be taken care of is actually really powerful. Yeah. Not to say that I haven't got the drive. I am a queen. I'm going to make my own millions in my own right. But I want a man to take care of me. I want him to pay for dinner. I want him to take care of all the masculine things and be like, oh, honey, thank you. Because that's the power of feminine essence. Totally. And I like to think of the masculine as like the structure and the foundation and the solidness and the holding. And the feminine then gets to like flow inside of that. Right. And like be in our like flowing essence, desire, emotionality, sensuality. Right. But we can't do that unless we have that strong container. We can provide for ourselves, to your point, which we do. And it's important for us to be able to provide that structure and solidity for ourselves and give ourselves that safety. And then when we feel solid in that, then opening to receive it from a man. And yeah, it's really powerful to, we cannot receive a man's foundational strength unless we're open to it. Because otherwise we'll be making it wrong, right? It's like, oh, you're not doing that right. You're not doing that right. You're not strong enough here. You can't give to me. Oh, I'll pay for it myself. Oh, it's like they're ready for it. They want to provide it. But if we're like dismissing it, or we're like, no, I'll just do it myself, it just diminishes. It breaks away at the foundation, at that solid, powerful structure and like presence that they can bring. Right. Yeah. And this is, I think, where we're at in today's world, is so many women are wanting to prove that they are as successful and as driven, that they don't need a man. And this is the place that I came from for so long, like having to pay, 50-50 with my partner and just like matching him on every single level. And what I've realized is, it's the not needing him, but wanting him.
Yeah.
So if anyone's listening to this, just think, am I desperately needing this partner to make me happy? Am I needing something from the external to make me feel validated? Because that isn't the best place to find that from. Like Aimee said, you want to be whole yourself. Mm-hmm. And we just went on an amazing weekend called The Art of Loving Men. Amazing.
Yeah.
And the Tantra teacher, Chantel, she's incredible. And she said, let the man you love the most die in your meditation every morning. Mm-hmm. And that applies to every area of your life, even within business. If the most amazing consultant in your team was to leave tomorrow, like, how would you feel? And that sense of strength in yourself, I think, is really powerful.
Can you be solid there, right? Can you be solid if the man that you love the most, died away, like the dream of him, the vision of it? Can you allow that to go away? Can you allow the top person on your team? Could you allow the business, the way that it's been going, to completely change form? Can you stay solid in that place? And yeah, it's a great practice to get there, to develop that inner masculine within us, and then to be solid enough to say, hey, I want to open to receive this kind of support and this kind of presence and love from another person. So vulnerable.
Oh, this is so good.
It's so vulnerable. It's so good.
Okay, triggers. So how do we stop being triggered or deal with them, or say it comes up, like how can we instantly dissolve it?
So one is just journaling about it. I think it's great to go forward when you're exploring, like, okay, what's going on? And if you're taking on this journey of introspection and personal responsibility for your life, then it's great to journal. What I like to do when I'm journaling about it is to go through my fears. So if something comes up, right, like for the example I gave of a friend who had reaction and trigger and jealousy and kind of like guardedness come up around her man being somewhere without her. A great thing to do would be to journal and just look at, like, okay, this is happening. My partner's at this event and I'm jealous and I'm future tripping. Like, I'm catastrophizing in my mind, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I just do, we call it fear inventory. There's like a formal way to do this, but this is one tool, is to just say, because I have fear that I fill in the blank. Because I have fear that I fill in the blank. And you always bring it back to yourself. So it's not like, because I have fear that he is going to cheat on me. No, it's because I have fear that I am unworthy of a committed partner. Because I have fear that I am unsexy. So it's looking at your fears, like, what is coming up for you? What is this bringing up for you? And keep going down the fears until it cracks something open. Like, you're just like, oh yeah, okay, right? So that's a great tool. And then also I find it helpful to just acknowledge it, to just name it with the person that is coming up with, because it's really vulnerable and it creates intimacy. To do it from personal responsibility. So you can't just be like, Kim, when you said that you're gonna make millions in your business, I was triggered because I don't think I can have that, and I don't think you should either. But what it could sound like is like, Kim, when you declared that you're going to make millions in your business, it triggered me because I knew that, like, I'm not adequate enough to create millions for myself or abundance for myself. So I just wanted to share that with you, because I want those beliefs to be running me or like in my mind or in the space between us, because I so support you making millions. I want you to make so much money and support so many people and making their millions. I know that I'm worth that too. I know that I can have those things too. And I don't want to just be in my head and in my trigger and just be in like judgment and resentment. I want to be connected to you.
Wow. And then from that place, it will disperse.
Yeah, it just naturally falls away. Like, when you actually acknowledge it, when you name it, it doesn't mean that it's gone forever. Like, it might show up in a different way. But like I said, it's like going through that portal. Every time you move through the portal and you acknowledge it and you see your personal responsibility, your wounds, your triggers, and you acknowledge it and you own it, and you don't blame the other person or put it on them or make them fix it, right? When you go through that portal of doing that for yourself every time, it just falls away. The energy around it, the significance around that trigger falls away.
Yeah, and I think we're all living in a world where we're constantly being triggered.
Yeah.
So a few things I think you can do to control that is to turn off the news.
Definitely.
only follow people on social media that you're aligned with.
Definitely.
Any other tips that people can do to like decrease the triggering, or should they be putting themselves in the triggers because that's where the healing is?
Well, I think it's both. It's like, I like to say it's whatever game you want to play. It's whatever game, we're in one of my coaching trainings, they talk about that you're always winning the game that you're playing. We don't realize that we're constantly playing games. So it's like, okay, if you want to play the game of, being plugged into social media 24/7 and being triggered all the time, you're going to win at that game. Yeah, you're going to win at that. Right. Or if you want to play the game of stepping back and like kind of leaving the triggers and just being with yourself, you're going to win at that game. Right. We're always winning at whatever game we're playing. We're just not aware that we're playing the games, right? So whatever we're doing, we're going to win at it because it's just going to go that way. So we have to choose. So I like to kind of feel into it. Like I've had living experiences where I've lived with roommates who are so triggering to me, and I'm like, okay, I'm choosing to play this game. I'm going to lean in here. Not you guys, obviously, not my current roommates, but in the past, I've lived with people that were so triggering, and I was like, okay, I have a choice here. I can move out. Right? I can move away from the triggers. They're not changing. Or I can lean in and I can keep using this as an opportunity to grow and reveal myself and examine my fears and look at my triggers and get connected to people that I'm triggered by. And I did that. And I did that until I was done doing that. And I was like, okay, new game. I healed a lot. I connected a lot. And now I'm ready to live elsewhere. And I don't want to live with those people anymore. Beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, I can resonate with that so much because I am very much an introvert. So I can just think, oh, do you know what? I want to be on my own, live on my own because it's safer that way. I can't get triggered.
Comfortable.
And so when this opportunity came up to come and live in a villa with 5 girls and a guy, I was like, oh my God, that sounds so exciting. But oh my God, how's it going to be? How am I going to feel? Am I going to have my own space? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And it's just been so amazing. And, the friendships we've developed, the connection, we talk about so many things. Like, it's just been so nourishing. And from leaning into that, like, I've gained so much abundance.
Yeah. So in this case, it really worked for you to lean in and play the game of, community living, even though it's uncomfortable for me. And the idea is like, it makes you feel tight. You leaned in and then we're willing to reap the rewards.
Yeah, because if I think about, oh, do you know what? It's easier to be on my own. I can just do my own thing, look after myself. That just becomes how I am in the world.
Right.
And so it's like, I want to be a part of a community and give. And if I feel like I'm in this lack, well, where else am I being in lack in my life?
Right. Yeah. And kind of like avoidance or withholding or kind of safety and and kind of like managing life. Yeah. Instead of like flowing with it. And amazing awareness.
So many insights. And we're living in this house together and we're creating so much abundance. We're manifesting in 24 hours. It's insane.
Oh my God. Everyone's like, we have a thread, a texting thread, and everyone's like, I got this new client. I went on this date. This date was amazing. Oh my God. I just had an incredible self-pleasure session for 2 hours. Wow. I just made $100,000 in the last month. I figured out my launch was successful. I got the numbers back. Like, it's all like amazing abundance in all sorts of areas of life. And it doesn't always look high, right? Like we're referencing a lot of breakthroughs that are high, but we're also like grieving and we're going through challenges in relationships and letting go of old relationships, and we're supporting each other and injuries, physical injuries and fear coming up and trauma coming up that needs to be surfaced to heal. And so we're going through all sorts of different portals together, and all of that brings the abundance, because we can't just just fly high and ignore the things that hurt. Like, we're really feeling our hurts and communicating those too.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because it's so easy to just go, everything's amazing, but actually there's so many things under the surface that we communicate about and being triggered by. And
definitely.
That's really important. So one thing that I've learned, I don't know if you'll agree, but whenever you have a trigger, the worst thing you can do is react from that place. It's like taking yourself away, journaling, and then delivering it in a different package that's calm and responsive and not reactive, right?
Yeah. So yes. And one thing that I want to be careful of there is, like, if you do react to a trigger, it's easy to go, oh, now that I've learned this is the right way. And this way is wrong. And then we go into making ourselves wrong when we get triggered and react, which we do, because we're still human, right? It's like, you're still going to get triggered and react sometimes without stepping back and journaling first. It's just natural in relationship. If you're choosing to be in contact with human beings in the world, it's going to happen, right? So I would just say, yes, that is the best. That's most ideal, right? Is to be able to slow down, digest with a friend, digest with a coach or a healer, right? Journal, find ways to take care of yourself, go inward, look at what you were missing, and then come back to the person. Sometimes you're just going to get triggered and react. And that's also part of the messiness of relationships, because then the next opportunity is going back to clean it up. And that's a whole other level of vulnerability, is going back to clean up your messes, because we don't want to do that either. Our ego's like, I'm not going to apologize. My pride, like, I didn't do anything. I didn't make any messes. And like, we do make messes, right? Yeah. So it's a whole other level of relationship vulnerability and intimacy to say, oh my God, remember earlier today when I bit your head off? That wasn't really in resonance with what was happening. It wasn't like a right-sized reaction to what was happening over breakfast. I'm really seeing that. It stirred up stuff from my last relationship when I was cheated on. And when you made that comment about another woman, I got really triggered, and I lashed out at you instead of taking care of myself and looking at like what my little one, my inner child needed for loving in that moment. And I'm so sorry. Mm-hmm. Right? Because actually that's better. Sometimes you really do need to just react and let people see you and feel you in your mess, and then have the intimacy breakthrough of coming back to clean it up.
I love that. And that's the importance of forgiveness, isn't it? It's knowing if someone is reacting that way, it's just knowing that they're hurting inside.
Yes.
And so if you're the person that's being reacted to and spoken at, I always say, imagine you've got an orange and you squeeze it, you get orange juice. And so if someone's reacting or is feeling hurt when you squeeze them, that's going to come out. Mm-hmm. So I always see people from a place of love now, which has been really powerful. I'm like, oh, they're really hurting.
Yes.
Oh, something must be happening in their life.
Yes.
And when you can live with that sense of like forgiveness and joy, it's just so beautiful.
It is, and it makes it so much easier to be with people wherever they're at, right? If they're reacting, and it makes it easier not to take it personally. When you know that this is their, they've got their stuff, their triggers, their reactions, their, childhood trauma, like it makes it easier to be with any sort of communication from anyone. And I love the saying, hurt people. You know that saying? So it's an easy one to remember. Like if somebody's being hurtful, remember that they're hurting. Right? Hurt people. And so there's something in them that's hurt that is getting, brought up or activated. And so it's like you said, it's great to have compassion and bring love to those people and meet them and like stay curious with them and ask questions or give them space instead of then reacting to their reaction. Right? Because then the whole thing is like people are triggered, they react, and then we get triggered by their reactions. Right? And then it's a trigger fest.
Oh my God.
We love trigger fest here. We talk about them a lot in this house. Like, I had a trigger fest today.
Yeah. And just to touch on that, so I've always been someone to lean out of arguments and confrontation. I hear it a lot within my team because I used to be like that. Or don't want to say that because it's a confrontation and I don't want to get into an argument. But what then happens is that person internalizes the judgment and the hatred, and it ends up leaking into gossip, and it goes sideways, and then it's just like, ugh. And I always think whatever I say about someone else is going to say about me. So what I'm doing now is I'm leaning in to sensation because of you.
Yes.
I'm like, Aimee, should I let this person know that this came up for me? Yes, tell them. And so
that's always my response.
So from leaning into the sensation, and what we mean by that is if it feels uncomfortable to speak your truth and say to someone how you feel, then do it. Because within that they get a gift. Maybe they get a reflection of maybe how they've been, and you can take full responsibility, but also it's in how you deliver it. So you've also taught me how to deliver that in a way of taking ownership and coming from a place of love. And it's just been so transformational. I mean, just like a silly example. So I was thinking I was getting cacao for everyone. We were doing like a cacao ceremony. I was buying all the shopping, getting all the ingredients, and by the time we'd paid, I didn't really know what I was paying for, and I come out and I was like, well, that was a bit more than I was expecting. And this bag of sugar was like the equivalent of like £30, and it was a bag of sugar.
Wow.
And I was like, that doesn't feel right. But then I was like, no, it's okay, it's in the money. And then I was like, no, my desire is to take that back. Like, we don't need that. I don't need to pay £30 for that. Like,
no,
it's just the value of it isn't £30.
Right.
And so normally I would have just forgot about it, and then it would have suppressed me. And I would have felt resentment towards everyone.
Right.
Even though it was my decision to buy the sugar. And I would have like looked at everyone like, oh my God, do you know how much this cost?
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm going to take it back and get a refund.
Hell yeah.
Like,
I'm so glad you did that. Well, yeah. And that's what we call a codependent pattern, is when we do something and then it's our responsibility, right? Everything we do is actually our responsibility because we do it, and then blame somebody else and get resentful at others for what we did or didn't do, right? This happens a lot where okay, I'll give you an example. For me, of how a codependent pattern would play out was, I am really generous and I love to like have people together and have people over and have dinner parties. I've always been this way. And I would invite friends to things, events and whatever. And I would get so resentful if they didn't say yes. Because I'm like, I am giving to you. I'm being so generous with you. I always include you. I would say yes to you if you invited me. And so the codependent pattern is having that expectation, like they don't have the dignity of their own experience and their own yes and their own no, their own boundaries. Mm-hmm. And it's a reflection of where I didn't have boundaries for myself, mm-hmm. where I would then just be like, yes, of course I'll go because I should, or because they come to my events. It's codependency. It's like expectations, commerce. And it's like, no, you could choose whatever you wanted to do with that sugar, and it wouldn't have been our responsibility at all if you had kept it and gotten resentful, right? But if you had gotten resentful, it would have been a codependent pattern of like putting it on us, like the onus is on us, right? Outside of you. But we do it all the time in our relationships. It creates a lot of resentment unnecessarily. It's where we lack boundaries.
My mind is, I could talk to you for hours, but I don't know how long we've been on here, but we better wrap it up in a minute.
Yeah.
But ultimately, triggers are an indication for your next level of growth.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
And I've just got really good at going, oh my God, okay, so this trigger, what am I learning from this? Oh my God, I'm so excited. My next level of growth is on the other side of this.
Yeah.
And so if you can look at triggers in a positive way and start looking at yourself from within, then your whole world will start to shift.
It totally will. And I was just listening, I'll say this, and that I was just listening to a therapist on a podcast, and she said, I've heard people say like, you don't have to heal. You don't have to go into all your triggers and heal them. And she's like, yeah, that's true. You don't, but wouldn't you want to? Right? Like, don't you want to heal the things that are coming up and like running your life? And I'm like, yeah, I agree. I'm with you. Of course, nobody has to. But don't you want to? Because every time you heal a trigger or reaction like that, you get more free. Mm-hmm. You get more peace of mind, more ease and flexibility in your life. So that's what I'm all about.
And that's a whole victim triangle, which is a whole other podcast.
Could be a whole other episode. We can talk about that.
Oh my God, Aimee, this has been amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So much. Oh my goodness. So how can everyone find you? Because I know they're going to be obsessed.
I hope so. I'm on Instagram, Aimee Batuski, and my company is called Desire on Fire. So we're also on Instagram at Desire on Fire, and my website is aimeebatuski.com.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Oh, and my podcast.
Yes!
I have a podcast. Yes, it's called With Pleasure. Kim will be on it soon. Oh. Yes, I can't wait. It's another great way to stay in contact and stay up with my teachings and my work. And yeah, there's more to come, but because what we're offering next is not ready quite yet, I'm not going to reveal anything, but stay tuned by following me on social media.
Yeah, and women, you owe it to yourself to live a life that is turned on, because as soon as you start following the turn on in your life, oh my God, literally you just have so much fun and things get drawn to you so easily and effortlessly. And I'm so grateful that I said yes. Yeah. I don't even know where I'd be. Who would I even be?
I don't know. We'll never have to know because you said yes.
We'll never have to know.
Yeah.
I wanted to read out 5-star review of the week, and this is from Louise.js. She says, Kim, you are an inspiration. Thank you, Kim. I love this podcast. Uplifting, enlightening, transforming. You are my Gabby Bernstein. Thank you for your love, your light, and your alignment. Oh my gosh! For someone who has grown up on Gabby Bernstein, for someone to even consider me as that level is truly, truly magical. So thank you so much, Louise. Thank you so much, everyone. Until next time, see you later. Bye!
Thank you for joining me for another episode. I hope your soul feels inspired and expansive, ready for new levels. And if you want to work with me deeper and you want to know more about my work with Arbonne and how I help people to live aligned, please reach out. I also have a Align and Shine 5-day course that helps you to live in complete alignment, being in flow and ease and co-creation with the universe. So for more information on that, please head over to the Soul Digger Instagram, _, or my website, kimmella.co.uk. And until next time, please subscribe, share this with a friend, and leave a 5-star review. And please let me know what you love best about this episode. And remember, the magic is within.